Hello. How's it going? I want to talk a little bit about some mistakes and blunders from the Rapid and Blitz. Mostly a couple of games that we've seen. Um, and I think we have like this weird preconception that, oh, people just make a mistake. Oh, it's not induced by anything. Well, starting off, obviously, people blunder under time pressure. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is necessarily. Um, I wasn't there, so I can't tell for certainty. But I do want to pinpoint and show you a couple of games, which will be mostly the topic of this one. Let me pull up the game. Yeah, this game. This is the one I want to start with. This is the game between Hans Niemann and Manuel Petrosian. Um, a very normal position and a position that is actually advantageous for white. Why? Well, the thing is those pawns are a little bit weak. Pawn is going to be weak and isolated on d5 while white has most of his pieces organized and over defended. Plenty of things may still happen here. Hello, and welcome in. But let's see what happens. B takes, bishop g3, g5. Very nice little move. Trying to put pressure and just push away all these threats. 5, knight c1, knight c7, trades, knight d3. Trading off black's active piece, and now there are weaknesses left in the position. Is this winning for anyone? Probably not. It's not winning, but it's still playable, and of course, it is a blitz game. Some people thought it's a bullet game. No, it's not. In fact, they've got plus 2 seconds every move they make, and that actually makes a world of a difference. I couldn't help but notice, and noticed obviously, people online kind of start to play for flagging the opponent even when they're down a piece or a rook, which of course is downright, well, it's not against fair play, but it's not really in the spirit of chess. The goal of the game of chess, surprise, is to checkmate your opponent. But whenever you're trying to win with a whole rook down, that's not really what chess is about. So that is actually cured in the Rapid and Blitz, and they have this extra 2 seconds every single move. Is that a lot? It is not a lot. I'm going to talk about it in a bit. Hello, John Walker. How's it going? So there is this big of a pandemic, chess pandemic, if you say, that people are trying to just flag you. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Happy New Year's. So b5, h4, trades, knight b4, bishop c7, putting some pressure on the defender. Now, of course, we're looking at this from our comfort. But in general, you can sort of say and see that there's going to be a lot of drama because both of them are going to be low on time. We are on move 32. So they've got 3 minutes each, but it's going to go down quickly. f2, let's fast forward. Knight c4, knight d3, knight g2, and it turns out that black is the one who's having the fun, and it is not white, because the bishop on d8 targets the f-pawn, but there's no real way of winning either of those. These knights can't, like, these knights are better, and the knight won't really coordinate too well with the bishop. a2, knight b2, check. Knight d3, a little bit of knight shuffling, and this is very uncomfortable for white because it's just easy to jump around with the knights, and it's very difficult to get like a sound plan for the defending side, that is white here, of course. Knight d3, check, moving around, f4, f5, a nice little plan, fixing these pawns. All is very normal so far. b4 takes, knight b5 check. And this is again a turning point. Suddenly black wins a pawn. Suddenly black wins a pawn here. It is actually black who is playing for a win and nobody else. Takes, knight f2. But of course, nobody really gives up, and that's kind of a positive of online chess. Everybody is fighting tooth and nail, and if it works, it works. Talking fighting spirit, I have nothing against it. In fact, I welcome it. Check. Knight c4. Here, knight d6. Here, king e2. Here, waiting, waiting, waiting. Knight b6. Check. Bishop c5. So suddenly white is making some mends in the position. It's not quite over yet. Knight c6, knight c4, knight e5, king e3, king d4, bishop e7, and suddenly Hans actually has threats on both f6 and d5, and it's getting a little bit more complicated for black. Knight d7, knight d3, and suddenly the knights are off position. The knight that used to actually force this one to defend g4 has moved, and actually black is the one starting to feel the heat. And with no time on the clock, even if you have the 2 seconds, that does not mean you're going to make the best move. It's just going to mean you're not going to flag. c3, knight c5, check. There goes the pawn. And here comes the f pawn as well, because you have no ways of defending it properly. Knight takes, king d4, knight d5, takes, king e4, knight f7. And this is probably one of the moments you may be pausing and saying, hey, how could white lose this position? And you'll see, and I'll explain why that happens. Knight e8, knight f6, knight d5, here, knight g8. Knight d5, repeat one more time. In fact, that was quite a lot of repetition, but in any case, they keep on playing, knight d3, knight g8. So the position is seemingly unlosable. However, there is this thing called ambition. And ambition is something that drives you forward. Ambition is what gives you a chance to rise in the ranks. So here Hans goes knight c4, king c5. And here, Hans plays a very, very interesting move. I will give you a little bit of time to find it or try your hand at it. Indeed, that's what it is. King to e5. And what if I capture your horsey over there on c4? King e6, well, king e6 does not really threaten too much. I may just go king d4 in that case. But you are right, king e5 is the move. Now, you are wondering, probably wondering, okay, so why does Hans play king e5? Well, Hans plays king e5 because that's the only way to win the position. So if Hans would have wanted to make a draw as white, he would have made a draw with any move. Any legal move is a draw. However, the only way to win is to go for this sacrifice. And that is actually one of those things that people don't tend to understand, and that's why I tweeted, obviously, that is actually the reason I tweeted this, that yes, you may be shocked or horrified that, hey, how come white loses this game? The reason white actually loses this game because he's ambitious, tries to play the best, and then runs into trouble. So king e5 is the best move, the only one that is winning in the position. King takes c4, f6. Knight h6, obviously, otherwise the pawn just promotes. If you take, I take this g5 pawn and it's game over. It's just straight up game over. So, takes, and this of course is a completely losing ending. White is just going to push and promote the G pawn. So knight h6. Now, this is the moment when you see the position, you don't count into effect the nervous tension. Here, Hans probably thought that he's still safe. And he is actually safe. In fact, he played it perfectly. Knight c4, king e5 was the move. That's how you play. So even in my own Grandmaster practice, you think, okay, I've been pushing, what can go wrong? And there is this rule of thumb that has been crept in Grandmaster and top level chess. Repeat the position. And he goes king e4. And king e4, while it seems like it can go wrong, king e4 loses. So from a winning position, he's actually losing. Now, king e4, whether it was just waiting or he was just running out of time, I do not know, and both is possible. Both king e4 just trying to give some and get some time is possible, was a reason, or maybe he just wanted to wait it out. Okay, so it's not too hard to find what move is the winning one. However, you have to take a little bit of time to calculate it out. So do take a bit of your time to calculate it out. Now, I'm happy that you all joined here and joined this stream. I will be looking at a couple more examples. Really, all I want to do this stream is to show you how Grandmasters blunder and how they actually happen and what are the reasons. And of course, in some cases, I will speculate and I'll give you an idea what some Grandmasters would do differently. So let me pause here for y'all. Give yourself a little bit of time. So if you do not know, I'm Grandmaster Dennis Boros. I love providing some educational content, and also, of course, I play some competitive chess myself. Also like drinking tea, because it's good for me. So first move is obvious, but the hardest part about endings, is especially if you have no time left, is that you have to be extremely precise. You make one mistake and you're out. So for the moment, white is winning. King e6, obviously the knight cannot move because I just pushed the pawn and promote. Nothing you can do about it. E6 takes, push the pawn, promote, it's game over. So it's not enough to say I don't see a move. You have to try to find a move for your opponent. You can't just say, oh, king e6 wins. That's not how chess works, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would have plenty of world champions of all ranges. No, it is actually deeper than that. You have to use them fingers and count down the only ways to defend. Well, at the moment, the G pawn is something you can and need to do. Hello, Velvet Canyon. So what I'm asking is try to find and prove that white is winning after this move of king to e6, which I'm going to put on the board. The way you prove it is you try to find the best move for both sides and then come to a conclusion. That's all chess is. However, there are many paths you can take in this royal game, and that's what makes it exciting slash difficult. So you need to have a bit more vision than just single moves. For sure, it's good to have an idea, but then you have to go on. King d4, what do you think white will play? Mhm. So, all in all, you often look at the moves, but then you have to drop and come up to a conclusion why it wins. Because, all in all, these are just moves. You have to make sense of them. Can't make sense of them, they're just mere moves. That's all they are in that case. So, king d4, f7. Takes, takes. One, two, three. It seems like both sides are just in time to defend their pawns. But in fact, larynx is completely correct. Completely correct. Takes. And here, king e5 has to be played to take away that square. If you go here, indeed, that is possible. However, you just pick up the pawn. So probably it's not a big deal. However, it's not enough to just say, this is the position. You have to actually argue why you're winning the position. And it's called, using the chess lingo, Zugzwang. So black has the move, but wishes that he didn't have the move. Because if black didn't have the move, he'd be winning the pawn and promoting this. But it is his move, and he's going to lose this pawn, and he is the one losing. So, interestingly enough, king e6 would have been winning. However, Hans chose king e4, maybe believing that he has time to do this, or maybe he was just running out of time. In any case, this is a huge mistake. So now it is black to move and win. And it's dramatic, because king e6 was winning the game on the spot. This one is losing. And to the credit for the Armenian player, Manuel Petrosyan finds it. Knight f7, I will start marching down there. And it's gonna be difficult to stop the f-pawn. Well, if you take, the f-pawn promotes. So you take, f-pawn promotes. That is the main idea. You may save the game, but black doesn't just save the game. Black is actually winning. He plays this incredible move of king to c3. Incredible move, and is going to just shut out the white king and walk this way. So king d5, king d3, king e6, king e4, and unfortunately for white, he can do nothing, can't come near the knight. If you go here, of course you're losing because I pick up the pawn, as happened in the game. And if you go here, I just check you. Here, takes, and again I'm in time to pick up the G pawn. So when people are saying, hey, how come Hans loses this game? Well, let's go back to this position for a second of knight e3 to c4. He plays objectively the best chess you can. He actually tricks Manuel Petrosian, because king c5 is not the most accurate. King e5 is winning, the only way to win. And he actually falters in a winning position with going king e4, and much to how unlucky he is in this one, he's losing it. So in reality, Hans was playing this well, and either due time or nerves, he actually loses the game. So no, Hans didn't do anything wrong. Maybe he got too ambitious based on the time situation, but did he make a blunder? Did he play it outrageously? No. He played it well, and then blitz happened. And this is when blitz happens. Alright, by the way, if you're joining from Twitter, and this is the first time here, hello, I'm Grandmaster Boros, and I'm going to provide you a couple more examples. And this is again when blitz happens and grandmasters blunder. So another example that I wanted to show is another Hans game. And you're going to see kind of a different style. Pivetta, thank you for the follow. So a different style of play overall. Okay, so let me pull that one up. Here, this game is between Paravian and Hans. Okay, so let me go here. Load another game. Okay, so we're going to start from this position over here. First off, what you do whenever you look at a position, you count pieces. You count them chickens and say if you're rich or poor. Chess is like that. The more chickens you have, the better it is. Better it is. Bernie, thank you for the follow as well. Black has an extra pawn. An extra pawn on c4, even though under some pressure. And here Hans does something that this new generation does. They play fearlessly and a bit like computer tasting chess. It kind of feels like computer chess. Why? Well, they just use computers so much, they believe, okay, I'm gonna play this way and whatever happens, happens. I trust that this is the best move and go from there. I wonder if you can guess what black played in this position. By the way, or on YouTube as well, if you're interested. Talk about openings, ways of playing, ways of solving puzzles. So if that is your interest, do check it out as well. Yeah, here black makes a move that is objectively good, yet I would say that 20 years ago or 40 years ago for sure, it'd be super frowned upon. It'd be like, no, 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 you should not do this. b5. Is b5 bad? No. Is b5 good? I would say no. Why? Well, there is this bottom line rule. You have pawns there to protect your king. Right? It's there to protect your king. Once you move your pawns can never really move backwards. So, talking about the legendary player, Peter Leko would play rook d4 here ever so happily, and then just go on, slowly try to convert the advantage. Any risks involved? No risks involved for Hans. He's just getting a dominating position, and he's just going to win. b5, on the other hand, leaves the king wide open to all sorts of shenanigans. So in this way, the move gives a chance for Paravian to get a chance. So b3, and b3 is a very good practical move. Obviously, you're trying to open up the king side. Takes, b takes, queen d3. Obviously, if you check, then black is just going to move the king away, and there are some threats on the white king, so you can't really take the bishop. Queen d3, check. King b7, rook c3, check. g2. Now, black is still very much better in the position. However, in a practical game, it just feels so much safer, and the moves that white had to play was easy. So, not a good practical choice here by Hans. And did he play great moves? Yes, he did. Did he mess it up? Yes, and because he violated the basic principles here of chess, he shouldn't move pawns in front of the king. White didn't do anything of that sort. He made sure that his king is super safe. f6, but f6 is already pretty bad. So let's try to play here as Paravia. Let me find the other game I want to show. Basically capping off all these blunders and things that happen in these blitz games. It's actually not a difficult move whatsoever. Almost there, almost got it. Almost got it. Got the other game, which is of course the big game between Rapport and CARLSEN. Queen e4 check. That is absolutely correct. Queen e4 check. The king has to move. Whichever, doesn't matter. C takes. And from a completely dominating position, Hans is put on the back foot. So even though Hans was playing well, Hans is suffering now because of these strategic mistakes that he made. Even though the move by in itself wasn't bad, in fact, the computer considered it one of the strongest ones. And the same thing happened in the previous game that he played. He played very well. However, he paid no attention to the risks involved. And that's actually sort of the main thing, is their risk evaluation was somewhat off. CB here, B takes, Paravian just takes the pawn. Simple as that. There's nothing else I need to do as white. I'm just consolidating. That's it. Takes. King a7, rook c6, f5, just picks up the pawn. Very simple chess. So compared these two players, obviously Paravian's job is easier now, but look at the simplicity. He's just keeping it very solid. Takes, knight e4, h6. Alright, so we keep it educational. What should you do here if you are playing white? What is left to do in an endgame such as this? It's hard to believe this game was completely different like 5 moves ago, that is for sure. But this is Blitz for you. Things can turn in a heartbeat. So A, you need to be ready for the changes. And B, you should be very mindful what the future may hold. Bring the king, exactly, and Paravian does. Brings the king up. Note that everything's on white squares, so this blocked bishop on g5 actually has no power on it at all. Here, rook c6, rook takes, knight d6 takes, check, rook h7, check. Can't do anything because king a8, then I just win and promote. So has to take, knight takes, and here Hans resigned. So what can we learn from this one? Well, we can learn that if you have a good position, and I have to go back to this one again, b5 might be the objectively best, however, the riskiest move you may play. And yes, maybe for a computer, converting after b5 is easy, but for a human it's very difficult and it can be counterproductive, as happened in this game as well. And the same in the previous example, white was winning, but for some reason didn't follow up in the correct way and got punished. So in both cases, Hans was sort of punished for being a perfectionist. Perfectionism got punished over here. But let's move on, because we talked a little bit about Hans Niemann and a bit of his chess, his blitz chess, but it's time to move on and look at this big game between Magnus Carlsen and Rapport. Okay, go here. Alright, so let's start from the opening, shall we? Rapport is playing his good old French system. There are some upsides and some downsides. Downsides being that he does not have the bishop pair. However, Black knows this and plays the appropriate move. Can you guess what Black played here? And if you've seen it, it is fair game for you to guess what Rapport did. And this is what you should do. It is a strategic decision. I'll explain in detail once you guys give a guess. So Black has the knights. What does knights want? What are knights up to in these type of positions? Well, they're ready to jump around, but the more open the position gets, the worse it is. So pawn to c4. Why? Well, you want to close down the position first to restrict the bishop and also favoring these knights. Knights likes the closed positions in general. That's what you want to have. Bishop e2, bishop a4, keeping this bishop on c1 locked out. Bishop f4, knight a6. There is some fine maneuvering by Magnus, trying to put pressure on those squares, but it's very solid for both sides. Welcome, you people who just joined. We are looking at this one. We looked at some previous games, some HANS games, and now we're looking at this game between Magnus Carlsen and Richard Rapport. Let's see what happens. Knight c7, knight c6, some maneuvering, queen g8, queen h7. And this is a very cute maneuver by Rapport, putting pressure on the c2 pawn and basically landlocking that knight on e3. Bishop f3, e8, 2, rook c8, knight b5, and strategically saying black is actually making some headway. So here Carlsen decides to muddy waters and go for the sacrifice. Knight takes, pawn takes, e6, ef, queen f5. And it again feels Rapport is consolidating. If you just go bishop g4 here as white, then queen takes here, here, and the two pieces will dominate these awkward rooks that really don't have any entry squares nor any targets in the position. So again, Carlsen goes up with the brilliant practical try of rook b4, hitting that a4 bishop and paving a way for his queen to infiltrate and defend basically white's biggest vice, and that's the f-pawn. It's f-pawn on f7. Knight takes b4. I have to ask Rapport to try. So he takes, king a6 takes, bishop takes c2, a4. And even though white is down material, those rooks are a little bit clumsy, and that king on a6 is pretty awkward. Now, a little bit of a backstory. Rapport, of course, is a very ambitious player, and he just made a draw couple of rounds ago, or a round ago, against Hikaru with white. So it's sort of fueled to do very well this game. So goes knight c7, which is a good move. Takes bishop e4. Very nice intermediate move, getting rid of Carlsen's defender. Bishop f4, takes, check, here, takes, check, check, a5, rook d8. Apparently, there is a better move such as g6, but it's one thing to kind of see these moves and play them. Well, time is ticking, no one's really having a lot of time, and the stakes are high. A win for either side can change the trajectory of the whole event. It goes rook d8, which is very reasonable, a very healthy choice, but it isn't very aggressive like g6 would be. a6, king a8, but now the king gets a little bit boxed in, and it's going to get difficult. f8, takes, queen d7, and here Rapport finds a very, very, very nice resource. And at this moment, by the way, Rapport has more time than Carlsen. Carlsen is on seconds, Rapport still has minutes. And that actually is a dangerous situation because it gives you a false sense of security. But talking about security, Rapport's next move actually secures the advantage for him. And more, as I'll get into it. So it is black to move, try to find Rapport's next move that he played in this event. No worries, as long as you can explain why you think this move is so good. Why is rook f4 so awesome in this position? Because it is indeed very awesome. Rook b8 unfortunately runs into the idea of queen c6, and you are actually getting checkmated. So you gotta do something aggressive, otherwise you'll be the one being delivered a mate. Sadly for Rapport, the queen can't defend, there's a d-pawn blocking the way. Yeah, the rook takes f4 is actually brilliant, because white is forced to capture back with the g-pawn. If you take with the king, queen e4 is checkmate on the board, and a rare one at that, as the king has nowhere to hide to. For that reason, CARLSEN has to take on f4. Check. Here takes. So for now, repetition is minimum that Rapport can get, because if king f5, then there's queen h3 and you win the queen. So that is a no-go for Magnus, has to go here. Now this is actually the difficult spot in general. Rapport is playing for a win, rightfully so. However, he has the option of going for a draw. And if you know what happened earlier, you actually will realize what was the reason why he actually didn't go for a draw at all, or did not consider it at all. Well, he didn't go for a draw. For once, he already drew his previous game, so he wants to get a momentum. 2, he believes the position's winning. And this is eerily similar to the HANS game we looked at. This is actually eerily similar because HANS thought, okay, I have got winning chances. Wait, I've got a possibility to win in this position, even though it entails some risk. So anytime you're trying to win, especially when it is razor sharp, any other move that is not forcing is going to lead to a checkmate. You are in danger of losing the game itself. So that is one thing, obviously, that may just be the problem. So he goes g5 check. He's going for the win. And that is admirable. But that's the thing. It is dangerous to try for a win when, if you try too hard, you may overpress. But that's the way you can become a much better player in the future. Takes, check, h5. Very good. Chasing the king, you again can't go there because I win your queen. King goes back, check, check, king f3. And it seems like, oh, wait, we've got the queen trade. Isn't that fantastic for black? Well, not really, because the f pawns are rolling. And it's a connected passed pawn. So check, take, take, here. But here Rapport finds a beautiful idea and actually is still winning. So this is pretty marvelous how Rapport played so far. And one thing that people sometimes underestimate is the stress level. High stress level in this case and in this matchup, especially when Rapport sees that he has an overwhelming position, plus CARLSEN is very low on the clock. But it's of course a bit of a mirage. Why? Because you've got the extra 2 seconds. It's very hard to lose on time. It's possible, but it's unlikely. Especially if there is a move on the board that you can make. These super grandmasters will do it. So hello everyone joining. You came for Twitter. Hello, hello. So there is an educational channel. And if you're enjoying this, definitely consider following. If you want to support this channel, do subscribe either on YouTube or on Twitch, whichever. And let's try to find the next move here for Rapport. This is a critical moment. This is the moment where he keeps this game under control still. b5. Yes, exactly. Or creating a pass pawn yourself, and you can see the benefits of the c pawn. It's actually very, very close to promoting. That is correct there, Sandua. f5, b4, f6 takes, f7, c2, queens, queens. And the funny thing is that both manage to queen, and there is still a looming threat of queening. And last but not least, it's almost winning. So if Rapport does nothing, that could be a problem. However, of course, Rapport still has a perpetual if he wants to. Check, check, king here, check again, here, check here, king g6. And here, Rapport actually is going to make a sequence of moves that leads to trouble. But actually, he's winning here. Try find the win. It's black to move and win. Unfortunately for Rapport, it's all about the fight between the king and queen because the rook can't join the party. It's being pinned. That won't work. That just won't work. So it's going to boil down between these two folks. This is pinned. There's no rook c6 and the pawn is rushing to get promoted. This pawn is trying to promote as well. So it's actually still very tense and the clock is ticking. Queen g4, queen e6. It defends everything. Now the question is, what does black needs to have defended? That is the big question. And probably what Rapport missed. You need to defend a rook, that's for one. But you also need to defend the promotion square. So he didn't play the check, but here he thought c3 is going to be good enough. And so there are downsides of being a pragmatist and downsides of being someone who is a perfectionist. Perfectionist may even consider this. Here, that is protected. The f7 is protected. And now you just push the pawn. And actually, you promote and you win the game. Because if once there trades, the c pawn is just going to promote, it's game over. So c3, it looks good on the surface, but it's not good enough. Unfortunately for Rapport, probably should have spent even more time in this position, and he probably would have found queen e6, but of course, it's a very nervy moment. This is the one game that can change everything. c3, queen f7. Suddenly the queen is arriving, and checks don't do much, the king will hide. Check, check, king h5, and here probably Rapport should have pulled the brakes and said, okay, that's enough. That's enough, not what we want. Pushing the pawn is the best? Well, yeah, it looks logical, but in chess, sometimes logic goes out the window. Chess knows what she's supposed to do, and sometimes you're not in the know. So he goes queen e8 and probably thought that this is winning, but in fact, it's a mistake. So it is white to move and basically turn it around. Queens, indeed. The problem for Rapport is if you take, it's mate. Mate there, game over. Immediately, game over. Nothing you can do. It's just GG. That's it. That's all you can do. Just accept your fate. So he started checking, Queen g4 blocks everything. And sadly, yes, you may win the queen, but you get mated still. Check, check, here. And queen g8 resigns because, of course, captures. There is checkmate on c8. So quite a dramatic game. But as you can see, a little bit of an inaccuracy is enough to win a position that was lost initially. I really hope you enjoyed this little lesson / stream about ambition can actually lead to your downfall and also can garner you more points. Hans actually turned a drawish position into a winning one, but didn't manage to capitalize on it. So that's one lesson to learn. I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, definitely consider subscribing on YouTube and on Twitch. And I really hope I'm going to see you guys in the future, even next year. So with that, I'm signing off and be good, stay safe.